Wales and welcome to Rauta's Underground Trio. And once again, in this video, we have three different bands from the underground. These are of various styles, yet still more or less related to extreme metal. Basically, we could sum it up that we have two bands from the black metal territory and one of doom. And this one, last one, is indeed Funeral Doom. And as the format of Underground Trio goes, it's three bands, worst to best. So according to my personal opinion, we'll go with the order starting with the least good of this pile. So first we go to Germany with the band called Hadopelagial. Now, this is kind of a funny because there's another band slightly differently written, also from Germany called Hadopelagial. That is one with Y, and I recently got to review that one. Unfortunately, that one wasn't exactly a good band, but kind of a lukewarmish. Now, maybe the second time would be better, just typed in a little bit different way, I hoped, but in fact, this is a little bit worse. This is kind of a side project of band. If you really take a look at this two-man lineup, you will find that these guys have previous other bands. Maybe these are not active anymore, and the whole deal is here. These two guys having a new band since 2017. No indication whatsoever before 2020 of this band, so here we have the debut album, self-titled, from year 2022. Oh, 2020. And yeah, then you can actually imagine, like, these guys are somewhat experienced. These are not newbies anymore. They are not starting their very first elementary school band. They could actually know how to get, I don't know, recording done properly, having some good vocals, and more importantly, good songwriting, good riffs, and all that stuff. If only. I'm sorry to say, but this time I'm going to go a little bit negative with the first review because this, in fact, is quite of a boring album. Now let's get the positive things right out of the way before we get into negativity. We are all negative coming towards black metal and all. The first thing here is there are some decent melodic evil riffs. So these guys seem like they have been learning their ways with Marduk and Dark Funeral back and forth. Sometimes this reminds me more Dark Funeral, sometimes more Marduk, but definitely kind of a Swedish. First of all, you have the kind of a evil melody trademark coming from Dark Funeral. Check. Then you have those mid-tempo parts, also kind of evil, sinister riffs, maybe more into Marduk territory. Check. You have the kind of a melodic setting, fast tempo, which is then again very, very 1990s. Check, check, check. And everything is basically checking out those basic boxes. So you have the structure done, you have the basic format done, like this is going to be nailing the boards with some just badass satanic riffs and all that stuff, if only. Now, where it fails is that a lot of these riffs sound like, hey, this is my very first elementary school bands. I'm just copycat some of the ideas of the more famous and successful known bands from the 90s, and I'm just gonna go with that. Now, if you're copying riffs, it's kind of a fine, especially if the whole process is done nicely. That is nicely said. You have those grim, nasty vocals which are just going to shred off the neighbor's ears. You have the kind of production which is just going to just make that person rip his head off because you're so violent and all that stuff. And if only you have the songs which are so good that it doesn't even matter if you're doing a little bit copy-paste kind of a thing. But unfortunately, none of those boxes are being ticked. It's more like, yeah, you have the leftover riffs from Dark Funeral and the Marduk, and while there are some better parts, it's not gonna justify when your production kind of sucks and your vocals are only somewhat decent because a lot of effects. In my opinion, it seems more like Hadopelagial is failing to understand what make those bands somewhat good. Really good if we're talking about Marduk especially, and what made them successful. So it doesn't really, it's not enough, I mean, even if you have some evil fast tempo melodies and tremolo riffs or whatever, when you don't know how to compose good songs out of them. And that's the basic mistake here. Also, when it comes to production, this is more like a lamer version of that. Like, as if you don't really have the budget more than 1990 Marduk demo tape, and you're like, okay, it's gonna cut it because it's that. There's a reason why Marduk sounds violent, and part of that is actually good production. You don't have to be a fucking rocket scientist to understand that maybe Illiarn demo tape production is not enough for kind of a Marduk Dark Funeral soundscape or production, whatever. And also the vocals. If you really need a lot of effects to sound like a badass, raspy black metal vocalist, then you're maybe not good at that. Maybe get someone who is actually good at that. So this first anthem sounds to me more like a high school version of your favorite copy-paste Marduk, Dark Funeral, whatever Swedish black metal band, and that's pretty much of it. Without these somewhat better riffs, this would be absolute and horrible piece of turd. Now it has at least some potential, so I would say this is the kind of a mediocre minus. Not super bad, but definitely something that I don't want to listen after this one. Then the second one comes from Australia, and this is interesting bad because I've been here for like 10 years, only one album out, but a lot of singles. I mean a lot. It's basically like having individual singles of all the tracks, well, almost. Unfortunately, the band decided, let's go with the full album and having almost 70 minutes of music. Like, who does that with the very first try? Not only that, but they have like 4 covers. Imagine having a symphonic, second wave melodic black metal band who includes 4 different songs as cover songs. Not if different style. It's more like, hey, we're 1990s kind of a worship band, the second wave of black metal. Let's do one, I don't know, punk track or heavy metal one trash or death metal or first wave black metal. No, let's just clearly copy the ones that have been very, very much, made us to copy your style and then play them wrong. This is hilarious. You cannot make up this shit. Now, as I was guessing before listening to this album in full, I was guessing like already these cover songs must be the best one this band has to offer. Why so? Because they have been copying classic tracks. Come on, Freezing Moon from Mayhem, one of the best black metal songs ever. Night's Blood from Dissection, from one of the best black metal albums ever. Then The Morning Palace from Dimmu Borgir, probably the most known Dimmu Borgir track ever, and also one of the better ones. And Transylvanian Hunger from Darkthrone, once again, well, maybe the best black metal album out there. So you pick up those selected pieces. How is your own stuff going to compare when you have those classic tracks? Well, of course it's going to pale in comparison. That's kind of a given. So why would you even bother? Because they're going to overshadow your own music. I don't know. Basically, this is a kind of a Dimmu Borgir worship band in so many ways. It has a lot of synths, a lot of melodies. Well, the production is actually very close to being that, and that is not bad one by no means. This is something that this Australian-based band has understood well. They know how to sound rather good. So given this is the first album, they, in production-wise, sound like, okay, we already got that covered. We know what we're doing, and that's a good thing. Now, when it comes to the vocals, it's kind of a combination of the kind of a basic black metal shriekiness with some sort of a semi-clean parts and all that stuff, but it's not really like shining like, hey, these are really, really good vocals. It's more like trying different styles and see whatever floats. None of them float perfectly, but it's fine. Songwriting, unfortunately, is very, very lukewarm. There are parts where like, okay, this melody is that, and blah, blah, blah. But none of these are like Dimmu Borgir kind of stuff. I mean, Dimmu Borgir was, even in my opinion, even with their weakest albums, better than what this album is all about. But this is not like annoying or anything. It's not like it's bad. It's just like mostly harmless. You just kind of listen to it and then you forget it and move on. Nothing really here sticks. Nothing is catchy. Nothing is like wow. It's just something tolerable. Better than those Hadopelagial band, but nothing beyond that. Now then it comes to the part towards the end of the album where you start listening to these covers and you already know that they're going to be better songwriting wise anyway than the band's own tracks. And that's pretty much the story, except it's half the truth. First of all, there are weird mistakes with all these cover songs. Like with Mayhem, you will feel like this riff doesn't really go like that. And I was thinking, let's give the benefit of doubt. Maybe they're using different tuning and it sounds a little bit off. But you will find those mistakes throughout all these cover songs, which is kind of annoying. Especially when you listen to the Dimmu Borgir one and you realize those keyboards are not played like that. So it feels like they're playing wrong, either as purposefully or just not understanding how the song goes. Transylvania in Hungary is not maybe the one that actually has most flaws, but it sounds like they are using weird kind of a necro sound adaptation, which is bad, unlike Dark Throne, where it is really good. And then they have something that I can hardly imagine being real drums. Trust me, the drummer in this band is good, but it lacks all kind of dynamics and sound like drum machine at parts, and especially with this Dark Throne cover, it really sucks. But Night's Blood, for example, there's a weird way how he goes, the vocalist that is, with these lyrics. For example, it's like Night's Blood, and it's like more like Night's Blood kind of a thing. I mean, it's more like he's missing the notes, or more like using weird kind of rhythms. And when you know the song, you already know like it goes like this, not like this. Get what I get? I mean, so it's more like, why are you ruining this song? It's already perfect. John Nedved and the dudes at this section knew how this would play out. Not like you would play out like this. You get what I mean? So it's not like they're taking the best of the songs in black metal territory and then just like shitting on them. This can't be an homage kind of a thing, which makes me feel like some some puzzle pieces with Mazikeen Camp are not that good. Now this album is not bad, but maybe in one way or another this would have been better without those cover songs because they kind of ruined them. And it's not only me, I basically hinted about this album among my Discord friends, and they were like also like, "What the hell are these guys doing?" I'm not gonna listen to the album because cover songs are already that bad. So while this is better on average than that Hadopelagial, how do you say even that? Anyway, the German band, but these cover songs are like, why are you doing that? Why on earth would you do it? This could have been the best of this pile, but it's not. Which leads us going to Iceland. And this is the funeral doom metal band I was talking about earlier when I was listening to what kind of genres we have today. This one is Vofa with a self-titled album, Vofa. Also 2019 already. This band was founded in around 2017, according to Metal Archives anyway, and this is supposed to be anonymous members lineup. I kind of understand because this album is kind of boring. Now, this could have been on the second place instead of Mazikeen if only Mazikeen wasn't ruining with those all those cover songs and being extra lengthy with that album, because unlike Mazikeen, Vofa actually understands where to stop. 3 songs, 37 minutes. So yeah, all the songs are way too lengthy in my opinion, but at least they are able to maintain certain kind of a nice atmosphere. And nice, I mean dark and doomy and heavy. However, their riffs are not always that much of a quality work. There are parts where it feels like, yes, this kind of a doom death or funeral doom is heavy enough to crush your bones and all that stuff, but it feels like they're prolonging their, overstaying their welcome. It's more like, why don't you stop halfway? You don't need to go 12 minutes when maybe 7, 8 minutes is already enough to say what you have to say. So they're more like, okay, let's include some kind of a stoner rock version of a riff and turn it into kind of a sludge doom whatever, and it's more like, can you please skip this part because this is not really good. In terms of heaviness, yeah, this is heavy. In terms of darkness, yeah, I've seen darker and heard darker, but it's okay. In terms of growly vocals, pretty good, and the rest, kind of in the middle. So all I'm saying, Vofa is kind of the most potential of all these 3 different bands on this stuff, but it's more like they're failing to finish while they are winning. They're like, hey, I'm gonna keep bringing more and more of these riffs which are not that good just in order to piss you off or make you bored. I don't know, maybe one track is all that you need to hear from this album, and if you like that, well, go for the full one. But in my opinion, there's so many better funeral doom bands out there which are both darker and heavier, more desperate in terms of atmosphere, and who are not making their songs 12 minutes in order to make a point. So, the final verdict for these albums would be the first one 5 out of 10, and the rest, the Mazikeen and Vofa ones, 6 out of 10. None of them are really good, so kind of a mediocre, but maybe these last 2 mentioned here kind of deserve your attention, especially if you're a sucker for this given genres, symphonic black metal and funeral doom. But in case not, there are better albums out there for you to check out, so maybe move on or at least wait until these bands come up with more material like the second album, which I hope would be more polished, more finished in a way. Anyway, looking forward to your comments if you're listening to these bands, and enjoy or not. See you soon with more reviews coming your way. Bye bye.